Alright, so I'm going to tie a Mega Prince. A lot of people will tie these on a curved nymph hook. I'm just going to tie it on a big nymph hook. And this is the size 4. And the bead is a 3/16 copper brass Cyclops. And the thread I'm using is 6/0 classic waxed from Simperfly. First thing we do is get our forward facing legs, and you can make these as long or as short as you want. I'm just going to tie this in on the far side, wrap it almost up to the eye, flip this around, place one wrap over as I'm angling down, and on my second wrap I'll angle it up. And just finished tying these in going forward. You can be a little finicky when you're doing them. Let's trim them to the same length. Some people like these things just monstrously long. I'm not going for quite that, but not quite short either. And at this point, there we go. We're just going to whip finish. If you don't have a big whip finisher, when you have these longer ones, they can kind of get twisted around your part of your whip finish. And I'm just going to put a nice dump of glue on there. Move the bead forward and separate these. The legs are just some silly legs in brown and olive with some flake in them. I'm going to back this with wire. This is 25 thousandths wire, and put about 8 turns in. I wasn't counting, I was talking. Could be 7, could be 9, but about 8. And try to get that up in there, just to help. Make sure I get the right scissors. Okay. So far, so good. These ones take a little while to tie. They're not overly complicated. Good searching pattern. Good lead pattern. Make a little thread dam behind the lead. I'm going to kind of cross this over at an angle, trying to keep that thread on top, so when I come back I can keep my thread more easily on top and not sinking into in between all that lead. And then again, I'm going to come and just put a good dab of glue on there. I'm just going to take this all the way to the back. I like putting a good thread base down. Okay. You can use a lot of things here. Barred marabou. I've seen them in flash tail. And, so whatever you got. I'm just going to use some dark marabou. And we want this tail to be about half of the body. One more time. I got it on that one. Usually I get those pretty quick. Doesn't usually take me 3. I'm just going to tie this in with a 3 turn. Center back front. And there we go. Now I can hold this and wrap it forward. I'm only going to go up to my lead. Just help chew up some real estate and even it out. And I'm Trim that out. Tie this down real quick. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to be coming back and forth a few times. So next what I'm going to do is just get right close to the back. And I'm going to put in my second set of legs. Again with... let's do it this way. There we go. Do my far side first with a few turns. A little short. Coming to the near side. One wrap over, angled down, lift up. It should slide into place for you. And you should be able to adjust it. And again, you can make these as long or short as you like. Typically past the inner part of the tail. And we'll wrap this forward. Next I'm going to get my copper wire. You can tie these in a bunch of colors too and change your wire color up, whatever you have on hand. This is again a get them done pattern. Tie this in on the bottom. I had somebody ask me why I tied it on the bottom. Well, it's two reasons. One, a lot of the classic style nymphs, if you read the patterns from the older books, it says to do that. And two, I think there's a benefit because if you tie these in on the bottom and you decide to change something or add a material or whatever it is you want to do, you can actually wrap either way. You're not committing to wrapping from the left to the right, and then it still looks nice and neat. I'm just going to add a quick dubbing loop. And I'm going to trim the one side out. Next we need some peacock herl. The longer the stuff you can find, the better. I also kind of go for the nicer stuff here. The one thing I can tell you is line up your butt ends pretty well and then trim out this front stuff. Let's get that out of there. And you want to use like 4, 5, 6 peacock herl. You're not going to make it all the way up unless you've just got some monstrously large peacock herl, which I did have some, but I used it up tying these patterns for a guy. A lot of these recent videos have been just kind of a project for me tying a series of fly boxes for him to go fish in Montana, so that's why you see a lot of Montana flies. And that one already broke. Not even out the gate yet. Let's get that back in there. At least give it a chance to twist. I only put 4 in, but it's not uncommon to do, 5, 6. I mean, you'd probably do 8 if you wanted. I'm just going to core twist this up with that back half of that dubbing loop. You don't want to over twist because they tend to snap, or individual ones will. This is a full body fly, so it's going to be built, like I said, most likely in 2 parts. You probably hear the rain out back. We've been getting just a ton of rain. A bunch of roads washed out. Humidity is 100% and has been for a few days. So I left the garage door open this evening. Let's back that off and catch it in. Well, that hurl's just smaller. It gets smaller and smaller. That's okay. If you have to do it 3 times, you have to do it 3 times. I may have to do it 3 times on this one. Again, I'm going to put a dubbing loop in. And all the dubbing loop does when you core twist is just reinforce your hurl. Helps keep the bug alive longer, which is exactly what I want, seeing as how I'm sending it to a friend to go on a expensive fishing trip. So hopefully some of these flies will work well for him. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to get the whole body in 2. Here comes that rain picking up again. Hopefully it doesn't start the downpour where you can't hear me. Even if it does, I'm going to keep filming. I don't like editing. I think it's kind of cheesy. I'm human too. Life happens. Yeah, here it comes. So enjoy the ambience of the rain. Alright, we're gonna have to do another one. I was afraid of that. But I guess it can give you the flavor that you may have to do this more than once. We're looking to get to about the 3rd position where I'm tying in the dubbing loop now. And again, my problem is it's just getting smaller and smaller as I'm working up the feather. Ultimately taking more time on the video, so I apologize for that. I should have saved some of the bigger stuff and worked with it and did the video with some of the bigger stuff so I could have done it in 2. But it is what it is. And you could use, you know, a bag of hurl, you know, whatever. It doesn't have to come from the stem. Anymore, I just like using hurl that comes from the actual peacock stem itself. It tends to be nicer hurl. Let me get one more in there. And I'm going to get a half of one in there. Okay, so we're just going to tie this off. Clean that up. Okay, now we can bring our wire up. And we're just looking for 5 evenly spaced wraps, maybe 6. And the counter rib with the wire on top of core twisting will really help make for a solid bug. So you don't even, if the wire shows great, but it's not, you know, don't go crazy if it doesn't. It's like a fresh batch of wire or something because I can't get any of it to helicopter off. Okay. Next we're just going to take another half of one silly leg. I'm just going to do the same thing. Just kind of eyeball them in about the correct position. Put a couple wraps in and then I can move it. Roll it over. Down, lift up, tie it back. On that second turn back, that's where you want it to do its thing. And you can kind of angle these so you can get the concave side going back or forward or whatever you want to do. So if the convex side is aiming in, you're going to get a little bit more action. So it's going to want to stick out and flare out more like this. You can see the curvature of the rubber. And then you may want it in. Okay. Next, we're just going to add a hackle. I should have picked one already, and I did not. There we go. I'm using something just a little bit different. This is ringneck hen, just below the neck and into the upper back, kind of towards the wing. And so we're going to tie this in, concave side up, a few reps forward, a few reps back over itself. Trim that out. And you want, not really however many turns you like here. I like to go about 3. Give it a nice full collar here. Two. Oops. Didn't quite get 3, got 2.5, and that's okay. Now we can tie this off. For stuff like this, I like my fingernail clippers. For the wing, you can kind of do what you want. I want to use turkey biots. And goose biots are just a little bit short, but I'm going to do this in the kind of traditional fashion of the one fold of the back and then one 75% or maybe 60% on top of the other one. Now I tie my biots in at the same time once I have them lined up. I'll show you. Oh, I just dropped it. But you can get the turkey biots in full quill and then use the backside of them. So I've got my doubles there. I know it doesn't look like a double yet, but it will. So we just want to spread that hackle out and get a nice open space on top. And then we want the long biot going to the back, right about that angle. Something close. And you kind of see that second one sitting in there. Oftentimes the biot work will take a little bit longer than desired. But the more you work with them, the easier it gets. Tying on something this size makes it definitely easier than saying tying a size 20 prince or something. Okay, now these guys forward, and I fold them back to recapture them going in the opposite direction. And leaving this little piece on top is not really a big deal. So I've got this going on here. All right. And one last time, I'm going to put a dubbing loop in. I'm going to switch my peacock herl up to a dyed bright green. You don't want to overdo it and come too far into the collar and lose all your nice hackle movement. Oops, didn't mean to bump the camera, sorry. And so this is just strung herl. And I'll grab, oh, I don't know, 4, 5, 6. I got about 6 or 7 here, which is fine too. Oops. Wrapped up on me. It likes to do that. Okay. Now I can capture all this, tie it forward. So if you got smaller herl, I mean, don't be afraid to use strung. If you use whatever herl it is, and if it's smaller, don't be afraid to go up to like eight individual pieces. It'll travel further. And we're going to twist this up. I want this to lay right on top. There we go. Make this collar all nice and bushy. The dyed bright green, I mean, obviously the name says it all, it's just dyed a little brighter. And so it just kind of offsets what we've got going on in the back. Let me bring that up and around. So there's a little bit of work involved, but if you take your time and, especially if you add the cord twisting and the wraps of the herl, your bug's going to wind up lasting a whole lot longer typically, unless something crazy just decides to shred it. But it's a good technique. And now we're just going to glue this thing shut. And you can tie them faster too. Your body you could do out of ice dub or whatever you want to do. I'm just kind of sticking with the original, and I'm not trying to edit the videos, and I'm not trying to go warp speed either. Just tie a good fly, something that's going to last. And then for the final part is I'll take my brush and come on the bead and slide it down right into the front of the herl, just to make sure that everything on that collar is nice and locked into place. Just give a quick wipe of the bead, and that's it. If you like the videos, always appreciate a thumbs up, and subscribe, always like that too, appreciate it. You can check us out over at Fly Tying for Beginners on Facebook. We do all kinds of fun stuff over there. Feel free to share if you found it helpful, and as always, everybody, happy tying. Take care.